Elijah Hart
I'm
stood in
sorry,
the dust of
Silas.
the outlaw camp, his
After
rifle
everything?
useless at his side, staring into the barrel of his own wife's revolver. 3 weeks earlier, he hadn't even known her name. Now Rose Dawson stood beside the man who had hunted him for months, her hands steady, her eyes wet with something Elijah couldn't name. Not hatred, not fear, but a grief too heavy for words. "Please forgive me," she whispered, "for what I am about to do." He had married her to save his land. He never expected to fall in love with a woman carrying his death sentence sewn into the lining of her dress. Before we ride into this story together, tell me, where are you listening from tonight? Drop it in the comments below. I always love seeing how far these old frontier tales travel. If stories of love, betrayal, and second chances speak to you, hit like and subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. And if you've ever had to trust someone you barely knew, share your story with us. Now, let's begin. The letter arrived on a Tuesday, carried by a boy on a mule who didn't wait for a reply. Elijah Hart read it twice on his porch, the paper trembling slightly in his rough hands. His father's lawyer had written plainly, the will required a married heir within 30 days, or the ranch, 600 acres his father had bled for, would pass to Silas Hart, Elijah's uncle, a man who'd never worked an honest day on that land in his life. 30 days. Elijah folded the letter and looked out over the fields, gold under the afternoon sun, cattle grazing near the tree line his father had planted the year Elijah was born. He would not lose this to a man who only wanted to sell it for lumber money. He rode into town that same evening. The stagecoach had come in an hour before, and among the passengers stepping down into the dust was a woman Elijah had never seen before. She wore a gray traveling dress, carried one suitcase, and stood apart from the others like someone used to being alone. Her eyes moved across the street, the saloon, the sheriff's office, the church steeple, with the careful watchfulness of a person checking for danger. Elijah didn't plan to speak to her, but when the ticket agent asked where she intended to stay, and she said she had no answer, something in her voice, steady but tired in a way that went deeper than travel, stopped him. "Ma'am," he said, removing his hat. "Forgive me for the forwardness. My name is Elijah Hart. I have a proposal that might serve us both." She studied him a long moment. "I'm listening." He explained it plainly, the way he'd rehearsed it in his head on the ride over. The will, the 30 days, the uncle waiting like a vulture. He offered marriage in name only, a safe home, food, protection. Nothing more asked of her than she was willing to give. "And in return," she asked, "you help me keep what my father built." Her name was Rose Dawson. She didn't tell him where she'd come from, and he didn't press. Something in the set of her shoulders told him pressing would only close a door he needed open. 2 days later, the preacher married them in the small church at the edge of town, with only the sheriff and his wife as witnesses. Rose moved into the ranch house that same afternoon, and Elijah expected silence, distance, a woman simply waiting out her arrangement. Instead, she surprised him. She rose before dawn without being asked, feeding the chickens and calming a spooked mare that had thrown 2 ranch hands that week. She sat with old Tom Bridger after he was gored by a bull, cleaning the wound with a steadiness that made the younger men stop and stare. When the well ran low and tempers ran short, she was the one who found the second spring nobody remembered digging. Slowly, without meaning to, Elijah began watching her, the way a man watches weather changing, uncertain, but unable to look away. Then came the night the cattle were found poisoned in the north pasture, 6 dead by morning, and Rose stood beside him in the gray dawn light, without flinching, without asking foolish questions, only asking what needed to be done next. "You're not what I expected," Elijah admitted that night, on the porch, the stars hard and bright above the ranch. "Neither are you," she said quietly. It was the closest thing to warmth they'd shared, and it frightened him more than the poisoned cattle had. 3 nights later, unable to sleep, Elijah rose to check on a noise near the barn. Passing Rose's room, he found her door slightly open, her travel dress laid across the chair, the same gray dress she'd worn the day she arrived. He shouldn't have touched it. He told himself that later, 100 times. but his hand found a strange weight in the lining, a hidden seam sewn crooked, as if done in a hurry, in fear. He tore it open before he could stop himself. Inside was his own face, printed in ink beneath the word "Wanted." A hand-drawn map of his ranch, the house marked with a small red cross, and a letter, folded twice, written in a hand he didn't recognize. Instructions ordering the reader to gain Elijah Hart's trust and deliver him before the next full moon. Elijah stood in the dark hallway, the poster shaking in his hands, and felt something in his chest break clean in two. Elijah didn't sleep that night. He sat at the kitchen table until sunrise, the wanted poster and the letter spread before him like evidence at a trial, his own trial, for the crime of trusting too easily. He thought of his mother, who had left when he was 9, and the old lesson he'd sworn never to forget. People who seem gentle are often the most dangerous, because you let your guard down for them. He had let his guard down for Rose. When she came down for breakfast, humming softly, he was waiting with the poster laid flat on the table between them. Her humming stopped. "Elijah, don't." His voice was rougher than he intended. "Just tell me the truth. Were you sent here to hand me over?" Rose's face went pale, but she didn't look away, and she didn't cry, which somehow made it worse. "Yes," she said. "I was sent. But then there's nothing else to say." "There is." She stepped closer, though he stood rigid as a fence post. "I was going to warn you. I was going to disappear before anyone got hurt. Elijah, I have spent every night since I arrived trying to find a way out of this that doesn't end with you in a grave. Why should I believe a woman who kept a map of my house sewn into her dress?" Rose opened her mouth to answer, but the words never came. Outside, a horse screamed. Elijah reached the window in time to see torchlight moving fast along the fence line. 3, 4, 5 riders, faces covered with bandanas, moving toward the barn where half his cattle and both workhorses were stabled. One rider swung something burning through the air, and a moment later the barn roof caught, orange light climbing into the dark like something alive. "Mary," Rose breathed. Elijah's blood went cold. His niece slept in the small room off the kitchen, closest to the barn side of the house. He ran. Smoke was already curling under the door by the time he reached her room, thick and black, the kind that stole breath before it stole sight. 6-year-old Mary was coughing, disoriented, tangled in her blanket, too frightened to move. Elijah scooped her up, but the hallway behind him was already swallowed in smoke, the front door blocked by falling timber from the porch overhang. It was Rose who found the side window, Rose who broke the glass with a fire iron and guided Mary through it into the ranch hand's waiting arms. Rose who turned back toward the burning house when Elijah shouted that Tom Bridger was still trapped near the tack room. She never hesitated. That was the thing Elijah would remember most, later, when he had time to think clearly again. She ran toward the fire the way a person runs toward something they love, not away from something they fear. By the time the flames were beaten back and the smoke began to clear, Tom was alive, Mary was safe, wrapped in a blanket and crying into the arms of the foreman's wife. But Rose was gone. Elijah found her locket in the mud near the collapsed barn door. Its silver chain snapped, the small oval case still closed, still holding whatever secret she'd never shown him. Hoofprints led away from the ranch, deep and hurried, toward the dry canyon country where honest men didn't ride at night. The sheriff arrived an hour later, grim-faced, holding a torn scrap of cloth found caught on the fence. "Gang's been operating out of Coldwater Canyon for months," he said. "Robberies, cattle theft. Word is they're hunting for something buried on Heartland. Gold, maybe, from your father's day." Elijah barely heard him. He was staring at the locket in his palm, turning it over, feeling the weight of everything he didn't know. "She warned you," the sheriff said quietly, watching Elijah's face. "Didn't she, before they came?" Elijah didn't answer. He was already walking toward the stable, toward his horse, toward the canyon country where a woman he no longer understood, but could not stop loving, was riding straight into danger to keep a promise he hadn't known she'd made. By midnight, he was in the saddle, rifle across his lap, the burned ranch house glowing faintly behind him. He didn't know if he was riding to save Rose, or to finally learn the truth about the woman who had almost gotten him killed. He only knew that if he didn't reach Coldwater Canyon by morning, he might lose her before he ever found out which one was true. Coldwater Canyon earned its name honestly, a narrow gash of red rock where the wind never stopped moving and the sun never seemed to reach the canyon floor. Elijah reached it just after dawn, his horse lathered, his hands raw from gripping the reins too tight through the dark hours of riding. He found the outlaw camp by the smoke first, then the voices. He left his horse tied a half-mile back and moved on foot through the rocks, the way his father had taught him to move when hunting deer as a boy, slow, low, patient. What he saw from the ridge above the camp stopped his heart cold. Rose stood in the clearing below, and beside her stood a broad-shouldered man Elijah didn't recognize, a revolver holstered low on his hip, the easy posture of someone used to being obeyed. 4 other riders lounged near the fire, rifles close at hand. The man beside Rose was speaking, low and mean. Elijah couldn't hear the words, but he saw Rose's face, pale, tight with something that looked like fear, wearing the mask of calm. Then the man handed her his revolver. Elijah's breath caught. "Bring him in," the man said, loud enough now to carry up the rock face. "You said you could do it. Prove it." Elijah stepped out from the rocks before he could stop himself, rifle raised. Rose. Every head in the camp turned. The outlaws reached for their weapons, but the leader raised a hand, stopping them, a slow grin spreading across his face like he'd been expecting this all along. "There he is," the man said, "the famous Elijah Hart, come to rescue his bride." Rose's hand trembled around the revolver, but she raised it, leveling it at Elijah's chest, her eyes glassy with tears she refused to let fall. "Please forgive me," she whispered, "for what I am about to do." Elijah's rifle wavered. Every instinct told him to run, to fire, to do something, but his body wouldn't move, because some part of him, the part that had watched her run into a burning barn without hesitation, still refused to believe what his eyes were showing him. Rose's finger tightened on the trigger. She fired. The shot cracked across the canyon, and the leader beside her staggered, a red bloom spreading across his shoulder before he even understood what had happened. Rose had turned the revolver on him, not Elijah. In the half-second no one thought to expect it. Chaos broke the camp apart. The outlaws scrambled for cover as Elijah dropped to one knee and fired over their heads, buying seconds, precious seconds, while Rose ran toward him through the smoke and confusion. "The gold was never real," she gasped, reaching him, pulling him back toward the rocks as bullets chewed the stone above their heads. "Your father never buried anything." "Silas started that rumor himself, paid this gang to find it, so he could search the land freely once you were gone. I was supposed to lead them to you, but I couldn't. Elijah, I couldn't do it. Not after everything. Not after Mary. Not after—" "I know," he said, pulling her behind a boulder as gunfire cracked around them. "I know, Rose." They ran together through the canyon, the sheriff's posse arriving just as the sun cleared the ridge, drawn by the gunfire and the smoke signal Tom Bridger had lit hours before, at Elijah's instruction, in case he didn't return by morning. The outlaws scattered or surrendered. The wounded leader was taken alive, and under the sheriff's questioning, he gave up everything, including a letter bearing Silas Hart's own signature, proof of the scheme from the beginning. Silas was arrested within the week, the ranch secured, the will satisfied twice over, first by marriage and now by truth. Rose told Elijah everything, finally, in the quiet weeks that followed. How the gang had found her alone and desperate 2 years before, how they'd threatened everyone she loved until she agreed to their plan, how she'd chosen Elijah's ranch because she'd hoped, somehow, to find a way to warn him before it was too late. "I should have trusted you sooner," Elijah told her one evening, on the rebuilt porch, the new barn rising slowly beyond the fence line, instead of a stranger's letter. "You had no reason to trust a stranger," Rose said. "I gave you the poster before I gave you my heart. That's a hard thing to forgive." "Maybe," Elijah said, taking her hand. the locket she'd once hidden now resting openly around her neck. "But I'd rather spend my life earning that forgiveness than spend it without you." The ranch his father built still stood, gold under the setting sun, cattle grazing near the tree line. But it held something new now, not just land, not just legacy, but two people who had chosen, in the end, to trust each other completely. And that, Elijah often thought, was worth more than any gold buried beneath the ground. The end.